अस्सलाम वालेकुम। 52nd सेशन है हमारा इस सीरीज़ का, और इसमें हम लास्ट टाइम हज़रत हमज़ा और हज़रत उमर इनका कन्वर्शन हमने देखा। तो व्हाट हैपन्स आफ्टर दैट उसको देखते हैं। हमने देखा कि लास्ट टाइम आई थिंक पिछले लेक्चर में टुवर्ड्स द एंड आई टोल्ड यू कि ये सारा मामला जो हो रहा है परसिक्यूशन का, फैमिली अगेंस्ट फैमिली, किस अगेंस्ट किन, brothers against brothers, children against parents, this is not kind of in line with the Prophet's personality sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of all, even if he was not being physically assaulted, but we can be sure that if anyone suffered the most within his heart, it must have been the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And more so, seeing the helplessness to intervene in the event and seeing his own suffering deprivation, seeing his own being forced into exile, seeing his own being threatened and beaten, and then seeing himself to be at the center of it, and in a way a reason for it. Reason in the sense of a cause, that had I not spoken, had I not said these things, if I would not tell them all of this, nothing like this would have happened. It was a happy Makkah. Everyone enjoying their life. Me too. But see what has happened. Families have been broken. Divorces taking place. People beaten. It is changing the very fabric of the society. लेकिन इसके बावजूद कुछ तो इनको सपोर्ट भी मिल रहा होगा. His faith must have been buoyed by what he was seeing. When he would see the believers, when he would see the integrity of हाशिम्स कि कैसे मेरे साथ खड़े हैं, तो ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग और इम्पोर्टेंट है समझना. हम लोग जब इस सफ़र पे निकलते हैं, दीन के किसी भी सफ़र पे, किसी भी तरीके का, मैं आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट जस्ट से फॉर एग्जांपल एक तो प्रोफेटिक लेवल पे, फिर होता है हमारे दीन के तबलीग करने वाले जो बड़े बुजुर्ग पास्ट में गुजरे हैं. ये मैं कह रहा हूँ ये तो बड़ी लेवल होगी. मैं कह रहा हूँ छोटी से छोटी लेवल पे भी जब हम निकलते हैं ना, जैसे एक कोई जो सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर है या कोई सिविल इंजीनियर है, कोई डॉक्टर है, वो ज़कात देने निकला. ये छोटा सा काम, very small acts which we do as the foot soldiers of this religion, not in any real capacity of being some figure, being an imam, being some leader, etc. Even at that moment, a thing that kind of bolsters our faith is seeing its effect. In the sense, जब इंसान ज़कात देता है और वो देखता है किसी के चेहरे पे मुस्कान आई, या वो देखता है कि इससे किसी की मदद हुई, it does a world of wonder. Never mind how much you would want to hide it. लेकिन जब किसी को नसीहत करने के बाद उस इंसान का भला होता है, ये आपके सीने को चौड़ा कर देता है. और then there are people like me in my situation. I mean, मैं जैसे यहाँ पे पढ़ाता हूँ आप लोगों को, कोशिश करता हूँ. I don't know if I am able to do that or not, but I am trying and I have been doing this for years altogether. Like you know, कुछ लोग मुझे सुनते हैं, 8-10 लोग होते हैं बाय एंड लार्ज. तो उसके बावजूद मतलब lot many would say कि there isn't too much that is coming out of it. If you have been doing it for these many years, then there should have been at least 1,000-2,000 people listening to you live. But that has not happened. Allah Ta'ala ने ऐसा नहीं किया, ऐसा नहीं हुआ. हम इतने से हैं, 4, 8, 10 लोग, उसमें से 6, 7 वुड बी कंसिस्टेंट। कुछ एक जुड़ते रहते हैं, कुछ एक छूटते रहते हैं। लेकिन फिर किसी दिन कोई मैसेज आती है मुझे मेरे इंस्टाग्राम पे, मान लीजिए, उसमें कोई शख्स होता है जिसको मैं ऐसे जानता भी नहीं। वैसे हम ज़्यादातर एक दूसरे को जानते नहीं हैं। इट्स एन ओपन रूम, पीपल कम एंड गो। आई ऑल्सो हाइड behind this Sullkaak name and DP. But then a message arrives one day and the person says how they were affected, कैसे उनकी ज़िंदगी का कोई मामला एंटेंगल हो गया और उसका जो गांठ थी वो सुलझ गई। And that is the moment that pushes you to keep doing it. जब कोई कहता है कि there was this young girl in Canada and she would say कि after shifting to Canada I have had sleepless nights, and then I came across your podcast and I've been listening to it since. It helps me sleep. Lot many would take that not as a compliment. कि आपकी आपकी बातें इतनी बोरिंग होती है कि हमें नींद आ जाती है। But in the world of chaos and all of this that happens around us, very fast paced life, I really like that कि the reason being उनका मुझे ये कहना, अगर वो सिर्फ उसको सोने के लिए यूज़ कर रहे होते because it was boring, then the person would not write to me or say it to me. But saying meant कि it wasn't that, it was calmness, it was peace that was following once the person was listening. And that hasn't happened only once. Messages like that come. There was a person who cleared a very prestigious exam, and you would know that we don't teach any such thing, though we have lectures on economics, a few lectures, hardly 10 or something, sociology pe a few lectures, philosophy pe. That student was a student of law, and that person used to attend our rooms very early, some 3 or 4 years back. And we had lost contact with the person. And then one day I receive an email and says, I've cleared this exam, a very prestigious and very, very prestigious one, I would say. And the person had written that, though I wouldn't say it publicly, but I dedicate it to you, that something happened in those rooms and things changed in my life, and I got to see things the way I should have been. That's a life, I think, almost set on right track. And that gives hope. That gives hope. That kind of helps me sustain. When Shakir walks to me and I see his affection for me and hope in his eyes when he looks at me, that we are doing good things and learning is taking place. It's helping us understand things which we did not understand earlier. And it's making life better. There is calmness in our relationships. That helps. That helps a lot. Seeing these छोटे से ना जब विंटर, हार्श विंटर होता है और फिर उसके बाद कहीं पे आपको थोड़ा सा एक पौधे का ना एक ट्विग छोटा सा उसमें आपको दिखता है ग्रीनरी आते हुए, तो काइंड ऑफ गिव्स यू होप टू कीप ऑन वर्किंग ऑन दैट गार्डन। आई एम नॉट सर्टन आप में से कितने लोगों ने गार्डनिंग की होगी, लेकिन मैंने की है और अच्छी खासी की है। तो आई यूज्ड टू लुक आफ्टर माय गार्डन इन माय होम। और फिर मैं देखता था उसमें बड़ी दिक्कत हुई थी। द पर्सन हु वी हैड काइंड ऑफ हायर्ड फॉर द काम, he had done a terrible job. In fact, he duped us of the money. तो खैर फिर मैं खुद got into my lawn. It's a decent sized lawn and घास थोड़ी सी थी हमारे पास जो प्रॉपर थी जिसको यूज़ किया जा सकता था। तो I had to take out everything he had planted, and then with this little grass what would I do? I would place it at one place. तो कुछ दिन के बाद वो उगना शुरू हो गई, तो उसको काटा थोड़ा सा और दूसरी जगह आधा लगा है। ऐसे काइंड ऑफ फिर दूसरी जगह भी उगने लगी, फिर दोनों में से थोड़ा निकाल कर तीसरी चौथी जगह लगाया। ऐसे करते करते द गार्डन इज फ्लोरिशिंग राइट नाउ। ऐसे ही गुलाब का एक पौधा एक बार लगाया, फिर उसकी टहनियाँ निकली, उनको काटा, एक और जगह लगाया। एंड दैट्स हाउ आई काइंड ऑफ डिड इट। बट व्हाट गेव मी होप वाज, जब मैंने वो पहला पौधा लगाया था, इट वर्कड, देन आई केप्ट ऑन डूइंग इट। एंड दैट इज समथिंग साइकोलॉजिस्ट आल्सो टेल अस कि जब बच्चों को कोई टास्क देते हैं, अगर वो इनफाइनाइट इम्पॉसिबिलिटी रखता है अपने अंदर, दे वुड नॉट बी इंटरेस्टेड इन डूइंग इट। अगर वो बिल्कुल ही इजी होता है, देन अगेन दे आर नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन इट। इट नीड्स टू बी दैट ऑप्टिमम डिफिकल्टी विद थोड़ा सा ग्रेटिफिकेशन भी, दैट कीप्स ऑन पुशिंग पीपल, थोड़ा और थोड़ा और थोड़ा और। तो इन टाइम्स ऑफ जो ना ये एक्सक्रूशिएटिंग पेन वाले टाइम्स होते हैं ना, दीज मोमेंट्स कम एज, और इसी वजह से आई टेल यू पीपल एज वेल, इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर यू टू नर्चर दीज फिगर्स, दो इट बिकम्स वही मुँह मियाँ मिठू, बिकॉज मुझे मेरे बारे में कहना पड़ता है, तो इस वजह से बड़ा अजीब लगता है कहते टाइम, लेकिन कहना भी ज़रूरी है। समवन हैज़ टू से इट दैट पीपल नीड टू बी नर्चर्ड। इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट वी नर्चर। मेरे लिए ज़रूरी होता है कि किसी दिन हारून वॉक्स अप टू मी एंड टेल्स मी यू डिड अ गुड जॉब। ये हो जाता है, इंसान बहुत थका होता है अदरवाइज। एंड व्हेन यू लुक पीपल अराउंड यू, दे आर डूइंग फाइन, it helps a lot, in many ways that you cannot even imagine for that person, because it is too much to carry. The one reason why is it too much to carry, because for people to be in a position to lead or to do altruistic works, one of the fundamental character is they must be empathetic. They are empathetic nahi मैं कह रहा, they must be, otherwise they would not be able to do this work. Now the very interesting phenomena, psychologists have been trying to understand personalities for long now, and they have devised many methods. One of them, which I find fascinating, is Myers-Briggs type test. So they recognize 16 personalities, 16 broad personalities, and there are thoda sa usme bhi subtle differences. But 16 broad personalities, and the test is very simple. You can go and have your test done online. Questions ka answer karna, but the questionnaire is very thorough, takes time, and then they give you the results. One of the things you would find among these great leaders and all, they usually end up in that INFJ bracket. They are INFJs. That doesn't mean other personalities are lesser or something. These are just personality types. And one of the characters these people possess is empathetic behavior. Now, what is empathy? We are akin to sympathy. We understand sympathy. What is sympathy? Sympathy होता है किसी के बारे में किसी के साथ कुछ बुरा हो गया, आप उसको सहानुभूति देते हैं. I'm sorry for you. You feel sad for someone. That is being sympathetic. And being empathetic is a little more than that. Being empathetic is feeling their pain. It is not just I feel sorry for you. It is I feel what you feel. I can understand you. That means कि उसकी जो पेन है वो आपकी भी पेन है, वैसी ही जैसे उसकी है. Otherwise you're not empathetic. So empathetic behavior is not just understanding that someone is suffering. It is also feeling that suffering equally. जो दर्द उसके पैर में हो रहा है because of the shoes, you put on those shoes and you feel that pain. An example, you cannot feel your wife's labor pain. You cannot feel that. You can be sympathetic that I can see that you're suffering. There's a lot of pain right now. But you cannot feel that. Now, empathetic would be the one who is also feeling it. उसको ये दर्द हो रहा है. And there are such people, very less, but they are there. Now, what I was saying is that in people like those people who lead and all of these things, जो ये काम करते हैं, जिनके अंदर altruistic behavior होता है. Altruistic behavior means doing good to others even at your own cost. किसी और के लिए मतलब फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल हो ना लोगों का अच्छा करना है, चाहे उसमें मेरा ही बुरा क्यों ना हो. That is being altruistic. So people who are altruistic, one of the fundamental characters is being empathetic. So that means they are not just seeing your suffering, they are feeling that suffering. And sometimes that pain they feel is physical. It's literally physical, because your body keeps the score. Your body knows what you're going through. Have you not seen people aging too early? They age very early. Their hair starts getting white when they are like in 30. 30 mein they would look like 40s mein. So their health starts giving up very early because they feel so much and they feel that suffering. Others might say, yeah, I can understand, but they are actually feeling that pain. And if that is true, what that means is कि एक ये शख्स leadership position में है, that means he's interacting with a lot of people, and at the same time he is actually feeling their suffering. That means this person is not feeling one person's suffering. Everyone has one person's share of suffering. हम सबके पास अपना share of suffering है ही. He has increased his baggage for God knows what reasons. ये बैगेज कैरी करना है उसको अपने शोल्डर्स पे, एंड इट्स अ वेरी टफ बैगेज टू कैरी. इट्स नॉट एन easy baggage to carry. Never mind how much you see them smiling, never mind how much you see them with their AirPods and Tommy Hilfiger G's, never mind how much you see them enjoying on foreshore, never mind how much you see them having their kebabs and barbecues, never mind how much you see grand their wedding is, or a 3 4 5 lakh rupees ring in their fingers. Never mind how much you see them in all of these charisma and charm. It's a very heavy load on their shoulders. Very, very heavy load on their shoulders. And they might not even show it at times. And in comes your responsibility at that moment. And because these are altruistic people, because they are empathetic people, all you need to say is, you did your job well. You tried, mate. We are there for you. Thank God for you. We'll pray for you. So there used to be this person who used to be there in the mosque, wouldn't speak much. He was caught in certain acts sometimes, and they would bring him to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And the Prophet would smile and let him go every time. And then one day, the Sahaba asked, he commits these crimes and then you let him go. And the Prophet said, ये मेरा हमदर्द है, ये मेरा मुहिब है, इसको मुझसे मोहब्बत है. And that is not spoken about many people. He is one of them. So what would he do? He would sit all day in the mosque. And what would he notice? He would notice people coming to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they would narrate their own pain and suffering, or whatever issues they had in their homes. And the Prophet would tell them whatever he had to tell them, advise them, give them solutions, direct them in मामलात, and then they would leave. और ऐसे करते करते हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का पूरा दिन बीत जाता था. And then this person, he would still be there, and then he would so he would do two things. One of the things he would do during the daytime, when he would see थोड़ा सा हल्का सा, मतलब वो ना दो लोगों के बीच में का टाइम आ गया, कहने का मतलब a person had just left asking questions or advice, seeking advice. अब दूसरा बंदा बोलेगा उससे पहले he would stand up and take सारा attention towards himself and crack a joke. And he would keep on cracking a joke. तिरछी नज़र से वो हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की तरफ देखते थे कि वो कब मुस्कुराएंगे. और जब हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम मुस्कुराते थे, he would sit down. तो खैर फिर जब रात होती थी and people would leave, he would walk to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. फिर हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम उनसे कहते थे, बताओ क्या मसला है आपका. तो he would say कि no, you tell me, आपका मसला. क्या आप सारी दुनिया के गम सुनते हैं, दर्द सुनते हैं, आप मुझे बताएं आपके गम क्या है, आपके दर्द क्या है. You want to share something, share with me. So that would do a world of wonder even to a prophet for whom God himself was available. कि बशर की सरे अर्श मेहमान नवाजी, फिर क्या उसके बाद और क्या चाहिए, नथिंग. तो हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम अपने रिहाइश का जहाँ रहते थे उसके बारे में उन्होंने फरमाया, और उससे जहाँ पे वो नमाज पढ़ाते थे, जहाँ पे वो अपने ख़ुतबात देते थे, उस जगह को हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया है कि ये जन्नत का टुकड़ा है. तो ये जन्नत पे रहने वाली शख्सियत है और जन्नत विजिट करने वाली शख्सियत है. सिदरतुल मुंतहा होकर आए हैं हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम. But it would still do a world of wonder to him. And at the same time, if he would see something in his flock, and I'm talking about the Medinan part, that would make him sad. In fact, you must be knowing the incident with his wives once. And then he would not even come out of his room for days altogether, and he was very sad. Hazrat Umar walked to him one day and he saw the sadness. So is sab mein, it does wonders when you see your flock doing well. They're doing their मामलात well, their life moving on the right direction. It is a huge impetus, and ये वो वाली wind है जो आपको ऊपर उठाती है. Otherwise, lot of people face setbacks. Yes, a person in this position, in this role, must have grit and character and courage to face the harsh reality of the era we live in. And one of the harsh realities of our era is, for example, uh, that we are only 10-15 people here. Lot of wise things are said here, a lot of good things are said here, a lot of things could have been done, but we are only a handful. And how much of us is here, God knows. Maybe I am 100% here, but I don't know about Harun. Maybe 60%, Shakib 20%, Rubik's maybe 10%. I don't know how much of you is actually here. But at the end of the day, in this time and era, it's very important for us to understand the importance of standing for one another, and standing at least as moral support. Sheldon used to do there, that kind of support, not anything beyond that. But those things beyond that can also be done. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he must have felt intensely responsible for what is happening around him. And in all of that chaos, ये जो ये थोड़ी सी ना वो रोशनी सी at the end of the tunnel, कि these people, their faith, when he would have seen Hazrat Bilal, there must have been a lot of pain inside him. But at the same time, when he would have been seeing his resilience, that would have also given him hope. So you have to understand the kind of character we have to develop for people among us to come forward and get nurtured. And then कैसे Banu Hashim उनके साथ खड़ा रहा. But haunted by the fact that if not for him, none of this would be happening. Exactly the point we started with. कि इसके बावजूद the Prophet must have seen कि ये सब हुआ क्यों. I am at the center of this. Part of the reason is me. He had the greater the turmoil inside him, the more the revelations responded to it. The biggest support the Prophet would get, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was from the revelations itself, the Quranic voice. The Quranic voice was able to see deep inside him and address questions he was barely aware he was asking. So God himself is coming to support. तो बार बार steadily and repeatedly नई verses जो आती थी, they would come with this consoling language. They would encourage him as the taunts and derision increased by the day. वो उनको बार बार कहते थे कि पेशेंस की ज़रूरत है, fortitude की ज़रूरत है. And it was almost like a Gandhian stance of non-violence, non-violent resistance. I resisted passively, खामोशी से, sabr, fortitude. And this is very important. There are great lessons in the Prophet's life for us. If only we can see People who lack sabr, who want things to be done in a day, they would only plant rice के पौधे वो plant कर सकते हैं. This religion requires चिनार के tree plant करने वाले लोग who know कि I would not see any results in my lifetime. I would not even sit in its shade. How much does a chinar tree grow in one lifetime? Almost nothing. मजाक जैसा होता है चिनार ट्री एक lifetime का. आपके बच्चे भी शायद नहीं बैठेंगे उसकी शाख इसकी शेड में. आपके बच्चों के बच्चे, और तब तक शायद किसी ने हाईवे वहाँ से बना लिया होगा और वो चिनार का पेड़ काट के बाहर हो गया होगा. बट इवन देन यू प्लांट इट कि नो मे बी वन डे, मे बी someday. that kind of patience and fortitude comes from the word fort किले की तरह होना चाहिए शख्स. किला क्या होता है? You throw cannon balls at it. What does the किला do? What does the fort do? It stands, it's resilient, and if the fort goes, everything outside goes. So we have to be people of fortitude. And if I'm not mistaken, when Aristotle and Plato talked about these cardinal values, fundamental human values, one of the things they mention is fortitude. And we must develop it. And most of us don't. We don't have sabr and fortitude. And sabr is so much important. Being patient is so much important that God says whenever you are in tough situation, what do you take your help from? Nusta'inu bis sabr was salah. You see, पहले सब्र ही मेंशन किया है अल्लाह ताला ने. नुस्तईनु बिस सब्र व सलाह. Take help from what? From sabr and prayer. But fundamental is sabr. But we have forgotten it. We have forgotten, all of us. We are highly reactive people. We react very fast, in a jiffy, in a second. Someone just has to point a finger at us and we are there to react. And then even in times of great testing, we are too quick to react to matters. And that's not a great sign of... and then you see our condition as well. Our condition is not a very encouraging one. It's a very poor one. And you would see that we are not people of sabr. There are small events in your life that would tell you, are you the people of sabr? For example, the restaurant order getting delayed by a few minutes. Are you sabr at that moment? You are not, as if you are Henry Kissinger and Obama is on phone. He's waiting for you to give him directions on what to do on Iran peace treaty or nuclear deal, as if someone is waiting for you to tell them when to push the button or not for the next Apollo mission. But then if the restaurant owner is like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes late, hell breaks loose. Same is the case on streets. I would say that I'm myself a party to it. That cars, everyone is in so much rush. Everyone is in so much rush. As if everyone in this country is the prime minister of some big country and decisions would get delayed. So everyone seems to be in rush. Everyone seems to, if a thing doesn't work in a second, they would break it. They would throw it away. And that is what has become of their relationships then. Relationships have to work every time. And then they have come up with the phrase, it's not working, as if it's a mixer. Mixer, grinder, juicer is not working anymore. It's not working. Throw it away and get a new one, right? So it's not working because you don't have sabr. It is supposed to be like that, not working sometimes. It's a bad company which has made it. But nonetheless, लोगों का मामला ऐसा ही है कि it's not working and they give up very easily, very quickly, and good relationships that could have been great are lost forever. And then in all of this chaos, fundamentally human suffering comes forward. Societies break down, families break down, and family is the last bastion of morals. Morals go down, morals go haywire, and a society which loses moral compass loses its spiritual and intellectual compass as well. You cannot have one without another. It's just not possible. And once the three are gone, what follows next? Economics. Your economy goes because people hoard, people do extra munafakhori, some benefit, others lose, and it invariably ends up in inequality, and inequality breeds corruption, inequality breeds nafrat, envy, gussa, anger, and inequality does all of these things. And finally, economic turmoil ends in political turmoil. पॉलिटिकल टर्मोइल मीन्स इख्तिदार की लड़ाई फिर इसके बाद छिड़ जाती है, और इख्तिदार की लड़ाई में आप हार जाते हैं बिकॉज आप गलत रास्ते पे होते हैं. So fundamentally, where does it start from? We have to look into these root causes of what went wrong and where. We have to develop these characters of patience and fortitude in testing times more than other times. It cannot be emphasized more. So develop these characters inside you. Have sabr, develop fortitude, be strong people. A fort does not change its direction. Even if an army comes, it is there the way it is. It's not going to change itself. You have to make your path. You have to change yourself. So the prophet was asked to develop patience and fortitude, and it's a prophet who has been asked to do it. What should you and me do? We should develop it to even a greater level. Again and again, he was told that he was not the only one to have undergone such trials and such treatment. So he was reminded, and this is also a very important thing. Why do we read history at all? Students wonder in their history. I should say not wonder, they wonder. And they wander here and there in their history classrooms. Why are they even studying history? And probably that's the reason most of us hate and dislike history. And if we were to start a history class here, most of us would be sleeping already. But why would that be? And if that is true, why is it being taught at all if we are not interested in? Why do we want to read history in modern context? And it's a very shameful fact that those who are interested in studying history study history for the sake of hatred. मुझे देखना है क्या जुल्म किसने किया था ताकि मैं उसके खिलाफ इस वक्त जुल्म करूं, इस वक्त जुल्म की जस्टिफिकेशन ढूंढूं कि इसने, दिस इज वही जहीलिया स्ट्रीक of the Arabs. What would they do? They would revisit and inflict injuries 10 generations later. We thought we had come out of it. But no, your forefathers did that and we are going to do it with you now. How sad, how sad. Very, very sad. So, that's where history comes in. We want to take history as a lesson in lessons. To know how civilizations rise, how civilizations fall, how communities are made and how communities break, how societies develop and which societies fail. How would we know them if we don't need history? Peloponnesian Wars के बारे में जब लिख रहे थे Greeks, so the writer writes, why am I writing this history? So did I tell you how wars were fought and why you should avoid them and what you should avoid and how to make a good society? You have to know all of these things that we have done. Someone has to write about Auschwitz, otherwise we would create another Hitler. We must understand that we cannot afford another world war. So then all of this, the reminder is very important, and that's why a preacher's, a teacher's role of reminding students again and again what is at stake and what role needs to be played by everyone. It could get boring at times because it is repeated so many times, but even then it must be done. The prophet was reminded that there were messengers before you who were mocked, and that would give him strength. Oh, this has happened to Hazrat Musa as well. Oh, this has happened to Hazrat Isa as well. So you have to understand that हमसे पहले भी कौमें गुजरी हैं, उनके साथ भी मामलात हुए हैं, और कौमें फिर उठी भी हैं. So like him, they had been disbelieved and called sorcerers and madmen. So this must have given him at least some peace of heart. Hazrat Musa हो, Hazrat Isa हो, वो भी ऐसे ही सेम डिवाइन मैसेज लाए थे. वो भी वार्न कर रहे थे लोगों को कि जाओ वापस अपने रियल वैल्यूज़ की तरफ, जाओ वापस एथिक्स की तरफ. लेकिन क्या करते वो वापस, they would be taunted. These are the stories of old women that you are telling us. We are well aware that your heart is weighed down by what the idolaters say. एक और आयत ने बोला, but he was asked, ignore them. But do we ignore? आप देखें ना हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम से अल्लाह ताला क्या कह रहे हैं, ये हमारे लिए लेसन्स हैं, हमें क्या करना चाहिए किन मामलात पे. But we are not people of sabr, we are people of reaction. We are people of reaction भी कुछ हद तक चलता, we are people of overreaction. In fact, we live in extremes. Things on which we should react, we don't. Things on which we shouldn't, we do. Things that don't matter at all, we react to them. And things that really matter, I had heard that a professor had once said, I heard it from elsewhere, कि the typical Kashmiri attitude is, Kashmiri students का attitude he would say is कि जो खुदा ने करना है तो वो उसके बारे में खुद करना इनिशिएटिव लेंगे, और जो उन्होंने करना है उस पर बोलेंगे खुदा इस पूछ रहा हो. सिलेबस तुमको मुकम्मल करना है, पढ़ाई तुमको करनी है, ये बुक तुमको मुकम्मल करनी है, एग्ज़ाम में तुमको बैठना है, लेकिन उसमें तुम करोगे पुश रहा हो खुदा इस. Throw it as if on God's lap and he is going to take care of it. और जो खुदा ने करना है, जस्टिस, अदल, वो मैं करूँगा, वो मैंने करना है. डिसाइड करना कौन काफिर है, कौन मुस्लिम है, कौन ईमान वाला है, कौन हिपोक्रेट है, किसका क्या फेट होगा, दैट वी हैव टू डिसाइड. लेकिन जो हमें मामलात, फुलफिलिंग द राइट्स ऑफ आवर नेबर्स, फुलफिलिंग द राइट्स ऑफ आवर पेरेंट्स, फुलफिलिंग द राइट्स ऑफ आवर चिल्ड्रन, फुलफिलिंग द राइट्स ऑफ आवर वाइफ्स एंड हस्बैंड, दैट इज़ व्हाट आई एम देयर फॉर. लेकिन वो मुझे नहीं करना. बच्चों को पढ़ाई नहीं करनी है, पढ़ाई के अलावा हर एक चीज़ करना है. बाहर कुछ किसी के साथ इनजस्टिस हो गया होगा, सारे स्टूडेंट हाजिर हैं, प्रेजेंट सर, लेकिन इन्हीं बच्चों से कहोगे किताब एक पढ़ के आप ऑल ऑफ अ सडन एब्सेंट सर. So this pushra khuda sala attitude and in मामला where it should not be. Khair, the Prophet was told to ignore them. Do not let their words grieve you. Do not let your heart be oppressed. Do not be saddened. Do not be distressed. Do not let them discourage you. This is important. Don't get discouraged. Discourage होना बहुत बड़ा मसला है. Discourage हो जाए. I told you already, every one of us has this responsibility to help the other when he gets discouraged, because we do get discouraged. I get discouraged. I see 4 people, I have been doing Twitter space simultaneously as I'm teaching you people. Nobody has attended our Twitter space for long now. We just have one visitor today. Otherwise कोई नहीं सुनता हमारे Twitter space को, but I continue doing that. इसमें दिल कभी कभार हो जाता है कि मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, वेस्ट ऑफ टाइम. तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल होता है आपका भी कि ना, आई एम हियर, आई एम लिसनिंग टू यू. तो वैसे ही पीपल डू गेट डिस्करेज्ड कि एम आई इवन डूइंग एनीथिंग विच इज़ वर्थवाइल, इज इट गोइंग टू यील्ड एनी रिजल्ट. सो ही वाज आस्क्ड, हिज टास्क वाज merely to warn his fellow Meccans, not to save them. The Prophet was said कि आप अपने मैसेज पास कर ली, बस रहने दीजिए. उसके बाद कि you cannot make the dead hear, you cannot make the deaf listen. इनके दिल हैं जो समझेंगे नहीं, आंखें हैं जो देखेंगे नहीं, इनके कान हैं जो सुनते नहीं. एंड जितना भी आप चाहोगे, they are not going to come back. You cannot guide the blind out of their error. Even if they saw a piece of heaven falling down on them, they would say just a heap of clouds. So leave them until the day of judgment. ये leave them वाला attitude भी हमें, we miss it. हमें पसंद है चकाचौंध किसकी, डिबेट की, बहस की, और दूसरे को हराने की. ये leave them alone वाला attitude, कालू सलामा वाला attitude Muslims have forgotten. I don't mean that is the only attitude we have to adopt. But hikmat tells us which attitude to adopt where. Sometimes kalu salama is their attitude we need. Okay, I'm done with you. Fine, lakum dinukum waliyadin. But no, I have been thinking about what's the difference between a benevolent dictator and a benevolent person. And it seems to me that one forces others into good. And in that, he does great injustice. And then that's where a good person gets into the territory of authoritarianism, totalitarianism, which invariably ends up in persecution. Though it starts with good near, that I want to do good to my people. And how do we stop ourselves from becoming that, the good ones at least? How do we stop? Iblis started as a good one, ended up Iblis. How do we stop ourselves from becoming this, what history has shown us, people with good intentions? What was Hitler telling his masses? Hitler was saying that this is an unjust treaty that has been forced upon us. We cannot be like this as slaves to these French and British. We have to take our respect back and right things to say. But where do you draw the line that it is good till now and now it is entering the Hitler territory that we know later off? We have to understand at times we just have, just if for example, we must have a zeal for social justice. If we do not have a zeal for social justice, I think we are missing something. If we do not have inside our hearts a pain for those people who are not as advantageous as we are missing part of humanity. We have not understood this religion at all then, if we do not feel that. But to what extent are we going to go to help them? When does it start becoming unjust? For example, I would take a contemporary example. When do reservations become unjust? If you do not feel the requirement for reservation at all, you, my dear, have not seen the suffering in hinterland then. You, my dear, have not seen how advantaged you are as compared to other people. But then we must ask this question, at what point does it become unjust? How much reservation is good reservation? How much should we? And to take the point to its highest levels, how much social justice is justice, and when does it become authoritarian, and when does it become unjust? Because if you do not understand that, then to remove inequality at its highest level would mean we must remove all children who are born from their mothers. We must do that. Why? Because that there is inequality. Someone's mother is intelligent, someone's is not as intelligent. That these two children would have initial inequality in upbringing. Second generation learners have invariably forever shown to be better than first generation learners. So we must separate them from their parents. And I am not the person who said it. Plato says it. And there must be something inside your heart telling you, no. Social justice has to stop somewhere. And exactly the point, Kalu Salama must come somewhere. We must tell somewhere, Lakum Dinukum Waliyad-Din. At one point, we just have to give up on it. Otherwise, we transgress into those limits that are set by God. People have the right to be wrong. You have to understand that. Within the limits of decency and law, but people have the right to be wrong. None of us needs to become Kanun Mantri all of the time. It makes a boring personality. People are going to dislike you and the law you speak of. But this was hard to do. The revelations acknowledged this. But do not waste away your soul with regret for them. Why? Because the Prophet was very empathetic. I have been saying it since the very beginning of this session. The Prophet was very, very empathetic. It would heavy his heart to see that these people are rejecting what is the best that could have been given to them. So it would affect him. And that's why at that moment the Quranic voice would sound almost like a spouse. Now spouse is, that is the, God says in Quran, we created for you among yourself your spouses so that you might find peace and tranquility with them. And he placed among you rahmah. So a spouse is like a womb, because raham is the word used in Arabic for womb. So your wife or your husband is like a womb. He's like a mother, or she's like a mother to you. In this sense that she's the womb which nurtures and protects you when you are the most fragile fetus, most fragile. And at that time, the womb protects you. What does the womb do? Womb puts into the fetus nutrition. And where does the fetus throw its waste things that it produces out of the nutrition given to it? We can excrete, we urinate. What does the fetus do? It gives it back to the mother. So the womb takes all the bad, gives all the good. That's what a spouse has to be like. We fail in it. I fail in it, I think. But we must try to be like, keep on giving the good, take the bad, and nourish this relationship. And Leslie Hazelton is saying sometimes Quran would sound as if it is spousal. It is giving him that kind of protection and tranquility. It tells you the importance of a spouse in matters like these. Will you worry yourself to death because they do not believe? This is what she is referring to. And this is God saying to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. क्या आप खुद को मार देंगे क्या इनके लिए? Pay no attention to them. Pay no attention to their mockery. Leave them to struggle in their stubbornness. ये ऐसे ही कहते हैं ना, छोड़ दे, सुनक बलाए, चकच पान पान मान, चकच टेंशन है मुझ. This is what a spouse does. Do not worry at all about it. मैं हूं ना. Leave them on their own intentions and inventions. Leave to themselves those who take their religion merely as a sport and pastime. Turn away from them and wait. This was his version of turn the other cheek. Ignore them. You are not to blame. Be tolerant and command what is right. Pay no attention to the foolish. आप बस अपनी बात कहें, बस छोड़ दे उसको. नेकी कर दरिया में डाल. Let them take whatever they want to take out of it. Let them do whatever they want to do. Yet by its sheer insistence of ignoring mockery, the Quran would ensure that the sting of it lasted long into the future. Wow, she's getting at a very interesting and important point. कि ये जितना भी कुरान ने बोला इसको इग्नोर करो. कुरान ने इंश्योर किया कि इस चीज़ से जो हुआ वो मुसलमानों के यहाँ जिंदा रहे. शायद इसी वजह से जो इस्लाम का फाउंडेशनल टेक्स्ट है कुरान है, यही सोर्स है मॉडर्न मुस्लिम्स क्यों सेंसिटिव हैं टू एनी इंसल्ट टू द प्रॉफिट सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, जिसने बड़े सारे लोगों को सरप्राइज भी किया है. जब सटायर जो यूजुअली वेस्ट में देखा जाता है हार्मलेस, वो वहाँ पे मैटर ऑफ एंटरटेनमेंट होता है, मुस्लिम्स के यहाँ वो मैटर ऑफ इंजुरी होता है. इट्स अ कांस्टेंट एंड कंसिस्टेंट रिमाइंडर of what the Prophet faced in Mecca, what the Prophet ﷺ and his early followers would face in Mecca. It's a consistent and constant reminder, and that's why hell would break loose, worldwide outbreak of anger, जब एक बहुत ही मशहूर सैटेनिक वर्सेस नाम की एक नॉवेल सलमान रुश्दी ने 1988 में पब्लिश की, या फिर वही चीज़ रिपीट हुई जब 2005 में डैनिश न्यूज़पेपर ने कुछ क्रूड कार्टून्स बनाए थे. Since the wiser course in both instances would have been precisely the one which the Quran had advocated, to pay no attention to such provocations. लेकिन इसके बाद फैक्ट तो यही है कि it was once again ignored, and this would be one of the ironies of history and of faith. We would stop here. The discussion on satanic verses would continue. She talks about it. And I was wondering in the very beginning of this lecture कि इसमें 2 टॉपिक्स हैं, एंड समहाउ 20-30 मिनट में पहला टॉपिक ख़त्म हो जाएगा और दूसरा फिर 1 घंटा लेगा. एंड वी यूजुअली ट्राई टू कीप आवर सेशंस अराउंड 50 मिनट्स, एक घंटे से कम. बट गॉड समहाउ प्रोलॉन्ग्ड द फर्स्ट हाफ and we were able to stop at a point where we could stop. We would continue next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.